Hello, everybody, and good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. Well, it is time once again to touch on a subject that is, I want to say, close to the heart of quite a few of my subscribers, but it has to do with the collapse of Bitcoin. It really has been undergoing a downtrend since October of 2021 when it peaked at about $61,000 per Bitcoin. Today we stand at something over $16,800 per Bitcoin. And the toll has been enormous in terms of people and countries that have really been affected in a negative way by Bitcoin. I think particularly the country of El Salvador, where they put their surplus money's in at about $35,000 to $40,000 per Bitcoin. Well, at $16,800 per Bitcoin, you do the math. This is a poor country that basically swallowed the Kool-Aid about Bitcoin, and there was something about it that made it special. But what really made it special was the fact that it garnered a lot of publicity and was the first darling of social media on the internet. And by that I mean, when social media came about, Bitcoin was the first investment that really grabbed the attention of people in a major way. And ultimately, it ended up being pimped by people like Matt Damon and Kim Kardashian, Super Bowl commercials that cost a fortune. And the real tragedy of that is that at that particular time, that was really the peak of the market there. It was also the peak of the psychology. It was the peak of the number of people that were going to be involved in Bitcoin on the buy side. And truth be told, at that point in time, after being pimped by celebrities, there was really no place to go but down, because psychologically speaking, and psychology is so important to investing that you have to understand, well, there wasn't a psychological boost to get it up to another level, because there were not the number of people that were interested in buying Bitcoin. It had saturated the available buyers pool, had worn that out, and now the sellers, people that were interested in selling, were getting the upper hand. What's also interesting is that notable figures, Dao Quan and others that were early proponents and operators within the Bitcoin arena, have skipped town, and some of these have left with over $1 billion, and companies are collapsing. They can't meet the liquidity requirements of cashing people out of Bitcoin, and there's forced mergers taking place. All this is a lead up to the question that many ask is, where will Bitcoin bottom? Well, the sad answer is, your guess is as good as mine. But I can tell you one thing: for those that think that Bitcoin will turn and race up to a new all-time high, the only thing that's going to ever allow that to happen is for the psychology of Bitcoin to be in place, to start the publicity machine going. And we saw with the creation of Bitcoin, that took from about 2008 until 2021. Okay, we're talking about 17 years of whatever the hell amount of 14 years to get that momentum to reach a point where it hit a critical mass, went parabolic, and well, sadly, most of the people that got into Bitcoin got in since to 2020 and 2021, because they drank the Kool-Aid about how Bitcoin was so important, and that credit card companies were coming in and they were offering Bitcoin linked credit cards. Bitcoin machines were popping up everywhere. But now we see that governments are pulling back. Places like Thailand and other places have prohibited in the wake of what's been going on, and India has banned it, and Korea, because they knew that it was a redistributor of wealth that was destructive in nature. Biggest weakness of Bitcoin is that anytime governments anywhere and everywhere could stand in and make a proclamation that it's not fungible anymore, meaning you might have a Bitcoin but worth $50,000, but the country let's say the United States or South Korea or whatever, suddenly decides the Treasury Department that if you want to maintain your banking license and your Wells Fargo, your Bank of America, your Citibank, your JP Morgan Chase, there'll be no more conversions of Bitcoin to US dollars. And you really think that these commercial banks are going to be risk losing their banking charters for the convertibility of a fraction, a tiny fraction of their customer base? The answer is no. They've done the same thing with, when the Swiss banks were told either turn over the deposit information of these so-called Swiss bank accounts or lose your banking licenses in the United States. Well, they couldn't turn over that information fast enough to the IRS. And the result is the secrecy and the panache, the mysteries, the mystique surrounding Swiss banks disappear to the point now where institutions like UBS are in trouble and need to be recapitalized because there's nothing to set them aside as special in the world anymore, in the great lake of banking. In order for Bitcoin to turn around, and I'm not saying that there can't be nice bounces because we cracked through a level that it held around the 20,000, bounced through a few times and now cracked through in earnest on the downside. Yeah, there might be a rally up to what was support will now become resistance. But at 16,800 per Bitcoin, the tendencies now is going to be, the psychology is going to reach a point now where people start thinking to themselves, I better get the hell out while there's still something to get. And they get that horrific thought in their mind that this Bitcoin could go to $1,000. Maybe the thing goes to zero. There's nobody pumping it anymore. I'm not seeing any articles like we're appearing on the Super Bowl and ads telling me I should buy. Banks are pulling away from it. Governments. I'm alone in the wilderness and I'm feeling unloved. And therein lies the problem of Bitcoin. To rebuild that same psychology, to ever have Bitcoin achieve the peaks that it did in October of 2021 at $61,000 per Bitcoin, would mean a redo of that whole psychological run-up to a new high. Do you think that banks, commercial banks, are going to be a little more reluctant to get on that train? Do you think countries are willingly going to embrace another go-round of the Bitcoin train to nowhere but disaster? In other words, psychology takes years and years and years to build. Momentum takes years. Success takes years. Right? Bitcoin has to go up, get knocked back. Okay, it survived. Wow, okay, now we're trying to go up again. We get knocked down again. People lose interest along the way. Other investments come in. Other things capture people's focus. You never get the same investment opportunities repeat themselves over time because there's always new opportunities that are coming down the pike. Truth be told, there's nothing special about Bitcoin limited to 21 million minted, but take a look at this 1909 San Francisco minted penny Lincoln had sent the first year of the Lincoln head in 1909 with the initials VDB, Victor D. Brenner, the artist, on the back of it underneath the wheat stalks. There were only about 500,000 of those minted. And by all accounts, there's probably only a couple million, probably only a couple 10, 20, 30,000 that are still in existence today. They're infinitely more rare than a Bitcoin, and they have a tried and true market of a collector base worldwide. And their values don't fluctuate and go nuts because, well, we haven't had the big ramp up. Suppose the big ramp up comes again like it did in 1979 and 1980 with precious metals, right? Driving the price of collector coins and interest in the hobby up. Guess what's going to happen to that 1909 SVDB? But the psychology is not there. The building blocks of interest and enthusiasm have not been built. So if you ask, where will Bitcoin bottom on this? Well, it's hard to say. You'd have to have hardcore proponents that have real balls of steel to be in there and hold it, because they have a belief that it will turn one day. But those same people that you believe will be the keystones to a turnaround are also the same people that are running out the back door as fast as they can, shying away from all publicity, telling nobody anything positive about Bitcoin again and why they should buy it, because, well, they have egg exploded all over their face. I want to thank you for tuning in today. A little bit of the rationale of why psychology is so important in investing, and how you can't get the toothpaste back in the tube once you've used up that final blast of psychology that drives things to a parabolic peak. It takes years, if ever, to reach that peak again, because unfortunately, most people got involved in buying when that parabolic peak was gathering the most attention, the most publicity, the most interest. And we know that those times typically mark the peak. And all those people get burned, losing half to 2/3 of their money to date. I want to thank you for watching today. Of course, your comments are welcome down in the comment section down below. I do try to do these periodic investments, sojourns, just so we touch base here. Stay a little topical and prepare for what's likely to be a very difficult 2023 and 2024. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, the bell for all notifications. This is a very diversified channel, variety channel. And we're now getting ready to move into our featured travel, unique travel mode, not common travel, unique travel mode. And you definitely want to make sure that you are a part of it. Also, if you wouldn't mind, hit that thumbs up on the way out. And thanks again for watching.